Welcome to those of you returning and those of you new to this channel. I sincerely appreciate your support. And if you do like this story or others on this channel, please share this video and help encourage others to create good, entertaining media and give everyone an alternative to the mainstream gatekeepers. So here's the first installment of our newest Noir story, as promised, and I do hope you enjoy it. But if not, please tell me why in the comments below. And now, without further ado or hesitation, mostly over my horrible voice acting, and in the words of my favorite Joker, here we go. Jackson Cain and the Case of the Purloined Prophecy by StoryMan-Jack. 1. A new case. I sat trying to figure out if I needed water or electricity more this month. It seems that pictures of illicit liaisons with one's extramarital lover just didn't pay what they used to. The real money was in consulting. Unfortunately, the PD and the feds just weren't contacting me anymore. I keep getting the runaround about how they are not allowed to contract, money issues, and funding. No funding for private dicks. That's what I'm told. In honesty, I think it's more because I'm a public asshole. The truth is, my name is mud at the moment, just because the perps of my last case either died conveniently or got away. To be honest, they had a point, the powers that be, though I'm not usually one responsible for apprehensions. The perp that got away was my father, apparently, and the one that died, my mother. So, a bad look. I inhaled slightly the bitter but nutty sweet smoke from the Dominican cigar and contemplated a way to get more cash. Really? I'd made enough on that job, thanks to my apparently ancient brother, that even jobs from the unknown federal agency he actually worked for didn't need any help, or he was just trying to lay low since the dead woman was also his mother. Though somehow rumors of that never quite made it out. Go figure. Kitty, my new secretary, though I didn't pay her and don't remember hiring her, sat on a stool in the corner watching me with her unnatural eyes. They were bright green like mine, but shaped like almonds with slitted pupils, almost like a cat's might have been. It was disturbing once you noticed it. Most folks assumed she was wearing contacts, as did I. Truth be told, the woman was said to be a fairy, some sort of creature, a kitsune, a being of myth and legend from the Asian side of the fairy tale spectrum. It was said that they were spirits of mischief, and the more powerful or older could in fact shift shape from a young woman to a fox and back at will. Now, I'm just a guy, and I'll admit I'm not very smart nor successful, and I don't believe in kiddie stories. But after last year, I had to reevaluate some of my thinking. Hell, witches weren't real before last year. Women given to association with demonic beings that granted them power in return for certain sacrifices and other moderately horrible acts were just stories, right? Well, I saw some things I couldn't get past and continued my course in life as a firm skeptic. If some Joe off the street were to ask me even now if witches were real, then I'd guffaw and shake my head like any other reasonably sane person. And yet, my father is allegedly the literal Cain, the man best known for being the first, written of, that killed his sibling. Oh, yeah, and he lied to God's face. Can't forget that. Do I believe any of it? All of it? I don't know. I watched the cherry at the tip of my stogie and lost myself in thought. I watched as the tobacco slowly relented to that burning glow, burning it down as if growing and eating a hungry being without thought. No, I can't say that I believed most of what I was told or saw, but I'm a simple guy after all. The only people I trust are myself and my 45. Maybe a good cigar. Everything else is up for interpretation in my book. The phone rang, and it startled me. The damn thing hadn't rang in weeks, which is why I was sitting here trying to figure out some bills. It's hard to rob Peter to pay Paul if Peter don't extend you credit anymore. I grew excited at the prospect. Maybe it would be someone who lost something. I'd have settled for taking photos of overweight husbands going through midlife crises and their mistresses again. Trust me, that job isn't as attractive as it seems. People who do nasty things tend to be nasty folks. Just so you know. I saw the caller ID and my heart sank. Jackson Cain Investigations, I answered. The brief thought ran across my mind that Kitty should have been answering the phone. Though, since I didn't pay her, I shouldn't complain and kept my stupid mouth shut. Cain, a Russian voice came over the line. I have a job for you, it told me. I assume you could use the cash. I sighed. I can always use cash. Just what's the KGB need from me today? There was a long silence at the other end of the line before an aggravated Dragomir Caliban said, I'm not Russian, Jackson, and I never worked for the KGB. Okay then, brother mine, just who do you work for? I asked. I found out during that crap with my parents that the old Slav was my older brother, supposedly, but he looked old enough to be my grandfather. The government, he said simply. Which government? And what are your agency's letters? I asked. Do you want the job or not? Dragomir asked, having enough of my banter. Well, what you got? I asked. Clearly the man wasn't in the mood for banter. Dragomir was just going to have to learn how to act like a brother, I guess. I mean, teasing and picking goes with the territory, doesn't it? Always wanted a brother. Just to treat like shit, after all. A book was stolen from the Museum of History here in Fort Worth, my brother informed me. Do you know the place? I grabbed my notebook and began jotting down notes. Yeah, went there on field trips as a kid. I think everybody in North Texas did. What's the book about? It's an ancient text from Samaria, the Russian told me. Supposedly it is a prophecy. Supposedly a prophecy, I asked. About what? There was another long silence. Dragomir, I asked, looking down at my phone to see if it was still connected. Werewolves, he said. How long until you can get here? I will hold off the local crime scene technicians, but I cannot do so for long. I looked up to find Kitty sitting on the edge of my desk, her long, toned legs bare in the short red skirt. Her eyes were slitted again, and she was smiling, a mischievous smile. Now, just so you know, Kitty is a beautiful woman, creature, whatever. I'm not sure. As I've stated in the past, I'm not completely understanding what these strange and crazy things are, but she supposedly that kitsune thing out of ancient folklore. Her hair is stark white, long and straight. Her features generically Asian, though I wouldn't even try to guess what nationality she actually was. The most disturbing feature of hers was the long canines that didn't so much resemble those of a vampire, but a saber-toothed tiger. That was the sense I got, anyway. Kitty was a predator. I knew it the moment I had first laid eyes on her. She began to stretch, just like a cat, pushing her ample breasts and deep cleavage to the fore, and I lost my train of thought for a moment. Her eyes were alight as she asked, Yes, my Jackson Cain. We ever get those silver bullets? I asked, reaching for the shoulder harness hanging from the hat rack my 45 strapped in its holster. It is already in the gun. And spare magazines, Jackie Poo, she said, laughter in her voice. I sighed. I've asked you not to call me that, I pointed out. Oh, I know, she said, and helped me into my jacket. This one will hold the stronghold, she said. You mean fort? The word is fort. The phrase is hold down the fort. I told her. Stronghold sounds better to this one. Besides, a fort is many to defend it. It's just you and I. I shook my head as I left, grabbing the keys to my old Jeep on the way out. But I stopped, thinking of something. Hey, Kitty, can you give Sam a call and let him know where I'm headed? Sam Dean, my best friend, was also a Texas Ranger. Though the hillbilly, and he was a hillbilly, got on my nerves at times, he talked about some of the craziest shit. It will cost you, my Jax. Yeah? She replied. I jerked around, finding her sitting at my desk now, her shapely legs crossed, her eyebrows arched. What? I asked. She just smirked. What cost? I asked. Oh, nothing too crazy, honey. Dean will be there. I just shook my head and shut the door behind me. James. I hate traffic. I mean, I get it. At 5 or so, most everyone gets off work. But there are far too many morons on the road. I mean, they'll give anyone a driver's license. I have one after all. The reality is that everything in Texas is way spread out. Unlike cities like New York or Chicago, we have lots of open space, so our metropolitan areas are very spread out. This is why our public transit systems are subpar. Most folks have to take way too many bus changes for them to make it worth their while to use that transit system. I arrived after about an hour. Yeah, sometimes it takes that long to get just about anywhere. As I expected, there were local police cars and government SUVs pulled up, blue and red lights flashing, causing me to wince. Those things are too damn bright. They should come with some kind of seizure warning or something. Unfortunately, there was a coroner's van as well. Someone must have gotten shot in the robbery or something. Maybe a guard. Caliban was waiting on me in the entry of the massive building. The older gentlemanly man watching me as I approached. He was tall and lanky and looked a bit like an English lord. His crisp, white goatee and three-piece suit. Black, of course. He was government after all. Hey, Dragomir, I called as I approached. You look particularly sinister today. Did you know? Cain? He nodded and not even smiling at a joke. Follow me. I've put off the CSI unit in coroner's office far too long as it is. The exhibit had been burgled. It wasn't a draw, apparently, because it was in the far reaches of the museum, almost hidden away. You could feel the tension coming from Dragomir, though. What's got you so jumpy? I asked, though, if my past experience was any indication there was something supernatural at play. Wolves, he stated simply. You got any of this prophecy that was stolen and translated, I asked. Oh, the whole thing, he told me, and approached an area taped off by bright yellow crime scene tape. Well, I asked. I'll give you the translation. He stopped and turned. But don't put too much faith in the translation. It could be wrong. I eyed the man. You superstitious, Dragomir? He just watched me, saying nothing and revealing nothing. Note to self, never play poker with Dragomir. That stone face would take me for every dime I had. Finally, he spoke. Prophecy is not exactly a prediction of the future, but at least of instructions to make something come about. He turned back to the scene. think actionable checkboxes that lead to a particular outcome. So, you think someone wants to bring about this prophecy thing? I asked. Dragomir lifted the tape and waved me through. The scene wasn't what I'd expected. Thieves, notably ones that tend to rob museums of antiquities and art, are very efficient. They don't leave a lot of traces behind. They disturb nothing but their target. This scene, however, was pure chaos. Art, statues, rubble, knocked over and broken, the ground littered with priceless antiques from before most languages we use today even evolved. A young woman's body lay torn and broken on the floor, though I could only tell it was female by the clothing left behind. Her face was ribboned, having been slashed with what looked like cuts made with surgical knives. You could even see her facial bones through the blood and gore. Her blouse was torn and ripped at the stomach, and I had to stop and look away. I felt the gorge of my dinner rising in my throat. There is a bucket over in the corner to your right, Dragomir said blandly. Her belly had been eaten. Somewhere something had torn out the woman's underbelly and devoured her organs. Who? But I couldn't finish. Andrea Brown, Dragomir said, the curator of this exhibit. So, you want me to find the stolen object and find the prophecy, find the werewolf? My life. It's like I did something really bad in a past one, and God's just saying, well, Jackson, this should kill you. We'll be seeing you soon. Judgment's coming. But I just said to Dragomir, oh joy, I just love puppies. Here ends the first episode of this story. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave a comment below. If you didn't, leave a comment below and tell me why. And if you did enjoy it, please share it out. And as always, your life is your story. Make it a great one. Good night.